Thank you. Great prayer. Good morning, everybody. I'm Sarah, and I get to speak to you today. Yay. So the title for my message, if you're the sort of person that takes notes, is The Invitation. The Invitation. Now, we get invitations to all sorts of things. Corporate invitations, personal invitations, written invitations, digital invitations. We get all sorts. And I totally had a spare copy of our wedding invitation that I absolutely haven't brought. It's on the desk at home. That's so annoying. Fished out a wedding invitation from 2012, and I was going to show it, and I've left it at home. There we go. But an invitation that I did get this year is to our friends Liz and Nick. They got married, so we got a wedding invitation. Haven't had one of those for ages, and it was a real joy to celebrate with them. And the extra joy that I had was that my daughter Tabitha had been asked to be a flower girl. And so here she is, looking absolutely adorable, if I do say so myself. And so this was from Easter Monday this year. And yeah, it was a really beautiful day. And so we responded to that invitation and said, yes, we'll absolutely be there. And we'd be honoured for Tabitha to be your flower girl. And so in terms of today's message, it isn't all going to be me saying how awesome my flower girl daughter is, although I could easily do that. It's going to be talking to you from the Bible, more importantly. And so we're going to be looking at an invitation that Jesus gives. So we're going to be heading to the New Testament. We're going to be in the Gospel of Matthew. If you want to head there, you're very welcome to do so. We'll do a little intro to that book. So the text itself is anonymous, but has been attributed to the Apostle Matthew since the very early church, really. And so it's attributed to him. Matthew was a former tax collector who became a follower of Jesus. So he was one of the 12 disciples. He features as a character in the text. And what we have with this gospel is one of the earliest official accounts of the birth, life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. And the focus is who this person was. Who was Jesus of Nazareth? And Matthew wants to convey the message of Jesus' identity. That he is the Messiah from the line of David, the new Moses, and God with us, Emmanuel. So we're heading to chapter 11. It might be familiar to you because Grace read it this morning. Matthew chapter 11, and we're going to go through verses 28 to 30. Jesus speaking, he says, "Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So, what do we do with that? An amazing invitation from Jesus. It starts with the invitation, "Come to me." Now, Jesus was a teacher, and it would have been common in those times for people to say, "Come, follow me," and different Jews would go to different rabbis. But in the preceding verses, we see Jesus outlining his identity in connection to the Father, and that he is the Son of God. And so he is saying, "Come to me," Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God. And you don't have to do anything. You can just come. The invitation is to all those who are weary and carrying heavy burdens. And we all have all sorts of burdens that we might be carrying, and you might be feeling weary. Jesus' initial audience, those Jews and Gentiles who were being yoked heavily by the Pharisees. So there was these religious leaders who had put on all these extra rules, hundreds of extra rules on those who were trying to follow God. And that had become very heavy, very oppressive. And in fact, Matthew describes this later on in chapter 23, verse 4. So he's speaking of the religious leaders of Jesus' time, and he says, "They tie up heavy burdens, hard to bear, and they lay them on people's shoulders, and they themselves are not willing to move them with a finger." And so there they are, creating burdens for people that weigh people down. We use that expression, the weight of the world is on my shoulders. And so he knew that people were feeling burdened. People were under oppression. And so he contrasts this heavy burden with this light yoke that he is offering. And so people can come with their burdens, and he says, "I will give you rest." And then he speaks about this thing called a yoke, which is a homophone, so we're not talking about what you'd find inside an egg. We're talking about a piece of farming equipment, and so it would be used and it would go over the neck of a pair of oxen, and so they would stand together and it would then go across them. And then they would then be attached for ploughing. And so he says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." And so we see Jesus, again, declaring who he is, the Son of God, and also saying, in terms of his character, "I am gentle and humble in heart." And in fact, Jesus humbled himself to death. He humbled himself and was willing to be obedient, to sacrifice himself for the sins of the world. Philippians chapter 2, verses 6 to 8. "Though he was in the form of God, he did not count equality with God as a thing to be grasped, but made himself nothing, taking the form of a servant and being born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross." And again, there's that massive contrast between the religious leaders who weren't going to lift a finger, and then there's Jesus, who would give absolutely everything for each of us. "I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." And so Jesus did not come to be served, but to serve, and indeed gave his life as a ransom for many. And so we live in an age, a different time to that of the first century, where Jesus is speaking to these Jews who are under this oppression of the Pharisees. But there are still burdens that we all have. And we live in a time of constant noise, which is really funny timing with that alarm going off. Notifications, endless distraction. But into that restless world, Jesus' words still echo. "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Everyone gets tired, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But Jesus' invitation is not to escape, but to discover rest in him. Rest for our souls. You might feel restless in yourself, but Jesus invites you to soul rest in him. And in fact, there's this great invitation that he makes and continues to make to us, the invitation to discipleship. And I want to unpack 3 different invitations that I think Jesus makes to us in this short passage of Scripture. The first invitation is the invitation to relationship, because he says, come to me. Come to a person. Not a ritual. Come to me. And he offers himself as the universal solution to all our burdens. Jesus does not offer escape. He offers himself. And so we can choose to accept that invitation to come to him, to Jesus. And when we come to him, there's also an opportunity, a further invitation, the invitation of partnership. Because Jesus says, take my yoke. He doesn't put it on us. We're invited to put it on, to co-labor, to partner, to walk with him. The design, the intention is not for us to go at it alone, which is often why it can feel that we are heavy laden, because we're holding up our burdens in our own strength. But if we take on his yoke, he's on the other side. And so he is carrying it with us. He bears the weight of our burden. And so the yoke is a symbol of partnership and submission. We choose to partner with him. And so when we're yoked to Jesus, we walk with him at his pace, in step with Jesus, share in his mission. Because sometimes we want to go fast when he wants to go slow. Sometimes we want to go one direction and he wants to go the other. And so maybe we take that yoke off and we go a different direction, or we want to speed ahead. But Jesus, come to me and take my yoke. The yoke that he describes in terms of being easy and the burden being light. Put on that yoke today. And so unlike the burdensome yoke of the Pharisees, with all these rules and these rituals and all this stuff that was just weighing people down, Jesus offers a yoke that is easy and light. And I've got a quote from John Mark Comer, who wrote The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, which I'd recommend if you haven't already read. And he talks a lot about this passage, in fact. So he says in that book, that's why Jesus doesn't offer us an escape. He offers us something better, equipment. He offers his apprentices a whole new way to bear the weight of our humanity with ease at his side. Like 2 oxen in a field, tied shoulder to shoulder, with Jesus doing all the heavy lifting at his pace, slow, unhurried, and present at the moment, full of love and joy and peace. An easy option, an easy yoke is. And so that is available. Keeps going out, doesn't it? I'll see how it goes, then I'll switch if I need to. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Microphones and me do not get on. So, an easy life isn't an option, but an easy yoke is an option for us. There is an invitation. Come to me, take my yoke. It's optional, and we are very much invited and encouraged, but it's a choice. Do we choose to put on the easy yoke and walk in partnership with him. But let's switch. Hello. There's more. Invitation number 3. Jesus says, "Come to me, take my yoke, and learn from me." There's more. We don't just stop at service. He has so much more for us. And the phrase that Coma uses is that of apprentices. But we're learning from him because, yes, Jesus is a teacher, the ultimate teacher, and the invitation is to learn from him. And I want to suggest that that is an invitation to us to transformation. Because as we learn and we put into practice what he teaches, we will be changed. We will become more like him. And so to follow Jesus is to adopt his way of doing things. We get to adopt his righteousness. But we can also see he was a man of prayer. A man who loved deeply. A man who was compassionate, gentle, full of grace. Lord, help us to learn to be like that. May we indeed learn from you. Because that doesn't come naturally to me. I don't know about you. But Jesus says, "I am gentle and lowly in heart." So as followers, we don't want to be followers that just listen. We want to be doers as well as hearers of the word. Because the call to learn from Jesus is the call to transformation, where we align our life with his values, his mission, and we become more like him. The call is to become Christ-like. And we do that by learning from him. And so we have this opportunity, this invitation to come, to be partnered with Jesus, and to become more like him, which is amazing in itself. But it also comes with a promise, this invitation. If you come, there's the promise of rest. And not just physical rest. He's not saying take a nap, but the promise is soul rest. Rest for your souls. One of my favourite quotes is from St. Augustine in his autobiography called Confessions. And in that, he wrote the following: "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they find their rest in you." And I just think it's beautiful. Our hearts are restless until they find their rest in you. And it's so easy to seek rest elsewhere, or to try and escape when we're feeling restless. But Jesus says, "Come. Come to me, and you will find rest for your souls." And so coming to Jesus doesn't take away all hardships, all burdens, all challenges, but it transforms how we carry it. Because he's carrying it with us, because he's walking with us. And so it can change our perspective, which is why Paul writes in 2 Corinthians, "This light and momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory." Life with Jesus is not free from burden or effort, but it is full of grace. And so Jesus' invitation still stands. The invitation today, Jesus says to you, come to me. If you're feeling weary, if you have burdens, if you're anxious, if you're burnt out, come to me, and I will give you rest. That is the invitation. And it's not my invitation. It's Jesus' invitation to you. Will you come to him today? And so coming to Jesus, we get to do with complete honesty. There's something he doesn't know already. He doesn't say, sort your stuff out and then come to me. Come with your burdens. You're feeling weary? Come. Come as you are. That is the invitation. There's a great exchange that goes on. We take off our burdens and put on his yoke, which we find to be easy and light. So we can bring our real burdens to Jesus. But in terms of that invitation, it's not just a one-time event. The invitation is to keep coming to Jesus. To know rest for our souls all the time. We keep coming to Jesus. And so we need to build in those moments, and perhaps just saying the phrase, Jesus, I come to you again. Maybe first thing in the morning, maybe before a challenging situation. Maybe when your daughter's just kicked the cat because he scratched her, you just say, Jesus, I come to you again. Because I need you. And so I invite you to ask yourself, what burdens am I carrying? Because Jesus says, come to me. So we take on his yoke, which means doing things with him. It's about surrendering control to Jesus. It's about submitting to his leadership, letting him set the direction and the pace for our lives. And so another question that I encourage you to ask yourself with God, what part of my life needs to come under your yoke? Or Jesus, where do I need to let you set the pace or direction or outcome? Because Jesus says, take on my yoke. And thirdly, we want to learn from him, which means learning his heart and putting into practice his ways. And so we can ask him to do that, to help us learn, to shape our own hearts and practices, and that we intentionally apply Jesus' teachings to our lives and seek to imitate him and his gentleness and his humility and his complete trust in the Father. And so perhaps there's a particular teaching that you want to be more deliberate about practicing, or perhaps a specific relationship or situation where you want to be intentional about demonstrating Christ-like gentleness. Because that's a hugely countercultural value, gentleness and humility. But that is who Jesus is, and we want to learn from him. So Jesus says, "Come to me, all of you who labour and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." It's not just an ancient invitation. It's an invitation that is personal to each one of us. It is an invitation that is persistent. He will keep inviting you. And when you accept, he's going to keep inviting you again. Come to me. So this is a present invitation. Jesus is still calling the weary, still welcoming the burdened, and still more than able to give rest. But every invitation needs to be accepted. And because he's gentle and lowly in heart, he doesn't force himself. He stands at the door and knocks. Do we let him in? Do we accept the invitation? God does not force rest on a restless heart, but the door, when opened, we go through. The yoke is offered, we put it on. The rest is promised, but we need to receive it. So the invitation to each of us is open. The Saviour is near, and the rest he offers is real, deep soul rest. So will you come? Will you come to Jesus? And so we're going to create an opportunity to do just that right now, because it is a present invitation. Jesus says to you right now, come to me. Come to me. If you are feeling weary, come to him. If you are carrying burdens, come to him. And it says to cast our burdens on him, for he cares for us. We throw it off. You don't have to keep holding it. He carries it for you. He can take the weight. Jesus will carry your burden for you. Take on his yoke. And so I just invite you to have a moment now with God and to ask, is there anything that you need to bring to him in prayer? Are there burdens that you need to lay down?